All right, so I guess we've got this one back on the bench. We were working on this here. I've kind of put a stop to that. This is some of my stuff, so I always put my stuff last. Everybody else, I fix stuff first. But we'll get to that in a little bit. No biggie. You probably seen a video where we did some work on the high voltage section, replacing caps and replaced all the diodes, and that got our voltage back up and everything. And then we put some new penta tubes in there, and thing was doing a really good job. Now you got to remember, the guy that owns this thing is blind and he's disabled, he has some really serious health issues, and so I didn't really get a good explanation as to how this happened, but it was working fine. And then he said his smoke detector went off, and then the box was doing something kind of weird, and he has to lay in a hospital bed. I don't know what happened. I just know that, he's a good old dude and he's a friend of mine. I've known him for a long time, and I'm just trying to help him. So I've taken it back home with me to see if I can fix it. It did have high voltage. It didn't smoke any of the high voltage stuff here. But something I noticed, and I'll try to zoom in on this. Let's see if I can get in there. Okay. Looking at the band switch. Look at this side here. You see that? And I've already discharged this amplifier. We're good. It's got good bleeders, but we double checked everything with the J pole to make sure there's no voltage there. And you got to be really careful with this stuff. This side looks really good. These are your standoffs for your wafers. And then you've got insulators right here. So this is porcelain. It's a non-conductor. These are metal, but they're insulated by these little, like, circuit board looking stuff, whatever you want to call this, bakelite or whatever material this is. This little brown stuff, that's a non-conductor, so it keeps this wafer isolated from the metal right here, because you don't want this to ground out. Well, after I seen this side all smoked right here where it had shorted, and I was like, how did that happen? So I'm looking, and this solder right here got hot and started to come down and got on this wafer, this bolt right here that keeps this band switch together. And for some odd reason, I mean, this is indicative of people, even that aren't disabled. They must have just kept keying on it. And every time you close the relay, you put high voltage on a lot of this stuff, which the relay looks okay, fortunately. But we'll clean those contacts when we get ready there. But what in something that we're gonna have to figure out is how, these band switch stuff is extremely expensive, and these tubes look like something. I don't know if he laid down on the hospital bed and it got the plate choke too. Look at that right there. I don't know if that could have been part of it. It shouldn't have been. It should have just affected its performance. It shouldn't have shorted like that. But I did notice that the lady that cleans up around there had stacked stuff on top of this thing. When I said, dude, you've got this, there's like a big box sitting on top of it. And he said, I didn't even know that, because he's blind. He can't see anything. And she had it stacked over the vent holes that, you still had this right here, but that's just not a lot of place for air to get out. So it probably, I don't know what happened, but looking at these brand new tubes, these have just been bright yellow writing. They're not even 2 months old. Look how discolored that is. These things got really, really, really hot. So I don't know if he had he can't use his feet. One leg's missing, and he's got neuropathy in his other leg, and so he has to use the foot switch. He has to squeeze with his fingers, and he's got neuropathy in his fingers. And like I say, blind. Maybe he laid the foot pedal down on the bed, and he lays in and laid on top. I don't know what happened, but I know that solder got into that and really cooked this band switch. And so what I'm going to try to do is, and you can't just fix that solder joint and call it a day, because carbon tracing starts to be a problem when you're running really high voltage. 100 volts, no big deal. Even 600 volts probably wouldn't be such a big deal, maybe. But when you get into the voltages, thousands of volts, 2750 to 3000, which this thing will do, this electricity will travel that carbon and start to arc. And it was doing that all over here. It started to arc to this right here. Sure did. You can see telltale signs of that. And these are all carbon traced. There's no reusing those. So I'm going to have to hopefully find another band switch I can tear apart that's got some of that stuff in it. And I want to try to fix it enough to try it to see what we're going to look like if these tubes are any good. And if I can, I move this away from that. Maybe that plate choke will work enough. I don't know. We're going to try it and see what happens there. But that's where we're at right now. So this is part one. I've got to get the band switch out, and so to do that, I'm going to have to remove a lot of these connections, and I didn't want to take them all off because sometimes it could be kind of hard to do, and you'll get things crossed up. So I removed some of the blocking caps for different bands. That's why you have different values. You're 99% of the time you're always going to have 1,000 picofarad head coming off of your plate choke for a blocking cap. That's what that is down there. But we've got 1,000 here, and this is on the 80 meter section, and so forth. Or 160, it might be the 160 meter, the 1.8 right there, but that's 160. Anyhow, so I got to get some more of this stuff here off. I'm probably take that screw there. Take that one off so that these connections will just stay put. Then we'll get the band switch out of it. We'll clean all the carbon off. I'll fix that solder joint. Try to make or find some more. I may have to tear this band switch down to do that. And so we'll see what happens, guys. So here we go. So while I was using both hands, I got a pretty good. Of course, we already had this loose, but I got that's out of that, and I've got. These have been disconnected, and I had to undo it right here out of this tank coil because the way that it was going through, it loops around. They've got man, come on now, thing want to mess up. It loops around in that, and so now my next biggest feat is going to be getting that connector off down there where it's hooked to the plate, and so plate tuner anyhow. And so that will be next maneuver. My favorite go-to device is this deal right here, which looks kind of like a soldering iron, but it's a vacuum. This has a hole in the end of it, in case you're getting into some electronics yourself. If I can get this thing to focus, you can see the little hole in it. And I've got it off right now, but this is the model that I have, and goes up to 460 degrees Celsius, which is pretty hot. And so I was able to pull some of the solder off to make getting these out a little bit easier. And then once I do that, I'm going to remove this screw here, take the knob off, and then pull this nut that holds the band switch out, and take the band switch out, move this thing over to my chair behind me, and then we'll dissect this band switch. We'll have to take it apart. It'll have to be separated, and each piece will be cleaned with electronic cleaner and a little wire brush or some kind of, I've got a little Dremel tool that runs these little wire brushes right here that's battery operated, so it's really handy. And we'll clean all the carbon off of that. These will be wire wheeled, and then I'll have to find some kind of nylon or some kind of more of a Bakelite material spacers to make that work. May have to make those. I don't know. I'll see what I can run across though. But we're gonna try to save the reason why this one wafer on like Harback's Electronics before shipping is $150, 140 something, 145, 43, but close enough. That's before tax. And I don't know what's going to happen with the rest. I don't know what these tubes are going to do. I don't know what else. I'm gonna try to get this thing going and save this part. And that's the plan. So we'll move on. We'll keep moving on. Next will be that connector down there. Gotta get that loose. All right, here we go. So we've got I took the nut loose off the front, as you can see, and I've got all my connections loose, and I kind of had to bend this wire back because I had to get to this nut that's down in here. Well, I've already broken it loose with my 3/8 drive Riz inch. Let's see if we can get this band switch out of here without messing anything else up. Let's see what happens here. All right. There's the nut, and don't see any washers on there, so maybe we'll we'll probably use our little pliers to reach down here, because I feel like I can do better with that. I'm gonna go ahead and get this off of there. I'm gonna fish this band switch out carefully. Maybe. What we hung on here. I got that. The main deal is to keep these things in that order, because that's the way it's got to go back. And we've got the band switch out, and we can get a really good look at some of the. I already removed some of the solder when I was pulling this one lead off of that there. That solder had actually crossed over somehow or another. It got hot enough, it crossed over onto this nut and then caused this to short and burnt that thing up really badly. So now we've got to take this thing apart. That's going to be the fun part there. We're going to pull this thing down. We're going to clean it up really good. And I'm gonna have to figure out something to do with these little spacers that we see that are gone. I mean, one of them's like just it cooked it to death. Let's move on to that and see what we can do. As I was moving this thing, I heard something going dingle, 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 dingle on the tubes. I'm going to pull the tubes out real quick. We're going to see what was loose. And like I said, I've already discharged the system, but I always make a habit of being very respectful of electricity. So this thing, I don't know what he did to this, but it isn't good. Gosh. I don't. Oh, okay. Let's see. What is that? Something's loose. You can hear it. Is that the filament? There it is. Oh. It's gonna be hard to see in this picture here, but it's a piece of glass. Very interesting. There's a piece of glass. So we have some getter. That's what the shiny stuff is down here at the bottom. It's not turned fuzzy or anything. Like there's air in it. That's weird. Oh, I see where it came from. Right there. Let me zoom in on this. Okay. Notice right here and notice right there. That's where that used to be. There's a piece of glass kind of. Well, it was dingling, but it's found a place to where it's wedged somewhere now. That's not good. It's definitely broken loose off of there. But that might not affect it too much. Okay. See if I see anything else like that. Oh, there's another one right here. There's two of them like that. Here's another one. There's two that I see. A little more careful. There we go. Hear that? Same thing. Look right there. Missing. I don't know what caused that. I don't know if heat did that. Heat probably did that because it's on the side that was high up. On the high side of the tube. Or overdriving it, one of the two. Could have been. I'm almost certain that this thing was hit was drove really, really hard. See if I. Now three of them's like that. One down here at the bottom, same way. If I can get it out of there or not. Look at that. Oh, yeah, here we go. Look at that. Oh, I'm getting in camera there. Look at that there. That should look the same on both sides. I don't know where the glass went, but it's in there. Sometimes it gets wedged probably in the screen of the tube. Or the grid. That's the grid. Good gosh, this thing got hot. Look at that. It cooked it. It should be nice and yellow for a pretty good while. It should never get that hot. Okay. Something to think about. Let's set this thing down. Dang, they're all like that. Every one of them's like that. The other one down here in the bottom, all four tubes got so hot. Man, this poor thing. Okay, we'll clean the band switch up and see what kind of life we got in the tubes, if it's even going to do anything. So we're going to attempt to get some of this band switch apart here. I've got to get mainly this one lead right here off. It's got to get pretty hot too. And I want to be careful not to damage this, so I need to clean the tip of this off just a little bit. Let's put a little bit of water on the Flumidaster here. Let's see what happens. Clean this tip off, get this thing kind of like, I know sometimes I have to apply some solder to get some heat to travel. There it is right there, okay. seems crazy to be desoldering something by putting solder on it, but it will transfer heat over to the item that you want to see removed. I'm going to hit it from both ends with a lot of heat here. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere. Let's see if I can get this thing to come out. I need 3 hands. Well, maybe this will work. Leave it like that. Let's just see what we can do here. Oh, that's what we want right there. Good, perfect. Now, clean that off. I didn't want to suck that solder off and then it not have any way of transferring heat to the item. So we got that. That's good. This, we'll worry about that in a little bit. We're good there. We're good. I'm just glad that we were able to get that out of there. That will work right there. Now, what we'll do is we'll take us up a screwdriver and an adjustable wrench, and okay. All right. Cooked. This will help me too. If I ever kind of like forget how something went together, you know, I could be like, oh man, let me get a little closer in on this so you can kind of get a better look at what I'm doing. Yeah, there we go. If I ever forget how something went together, I can watch my videos and go, oh, okay, that's how it looked before. Oh, we're going to clean these up really good. Or my grandma would get mad really well. Don't say that. And, wow. Some of that looks kind of rough from where I was. Oh, this isn't even solder anymore. It's just flakes of something that, fragments of what used to be skeletons of society. That was where a lot of the problem started, was right here. And we need to be really careful because it cooked. It got these so hot that, you know, if we're not careful, we won't have anything left to hook onto. So I want to get some of that off of there. But also want something left of this if that's possible. Look at that there. Sorry, I'm getting in the way. All that carbon tracing will be a problem. So it's got to be cleaned off. You know, do I want to take this whole band switch completely apart? I don't have to. If I can get in there and clean it off without having to do that. And I've got to switch over my Dremel to my other anvil so I can hold that right there. Let me stop the camera. gonna be hard to get all that carbon tracing off of there, that's for sure. That looks really good there. Let's get it a little up. It's probably not helping my hands all in the ways. Wow. Wow, look at that. So basically we're going to just keep doing that. That still doesn't look that bad right here. But I'll clean this plate up as much as I can and just keep working this until I get it all, get this dookie stuff off of there. Yeah. So I've actually got some brake cleaner, just some good old-fashioned automotive brake cleaner, and that really helps a lot, getting some of the residual off of there. You can see that right there. Let's see what that looks like. I guess I'm gonna have to go get into the wife's Q-tips. She's gonna be like, "Dang it, where's all my Q-tips at?" I'll be like, "I don't know, honey." Let's see what that looks like. It's not too bad. Electronic cleaner works, but this is really getting it done. It's a lot better. Sort of, kinda doable. We'll need to get in there a little bit better on some stuff, but you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to keep doing that until I get as much as that carbon tracing off of this switch, so that when we put it back together with our new insulators, I'll even wire wheel and clean these little things up too with a these things right here till I get them cleaned up and looking better. Then we'll have to figure out these little insulators right here. I know a guy that knows a guy that I might be able to find some of those, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, so moving along, and I've got this band switch cleaned up pretty good. I think it'll be okay. It's a lot better than what it was. We've got all that stuff off of there. I can't get, some of it's just burnt in, but I've wire wheeled it, and got a lot of the stuff off of there with my Q-tips and whatnot. And these are some nylon washers that I found that actually, as a friend of mine's he does ham radio repair, and he had these. They're for like Zener diodes in a Heath kit. Believe it or not, I think you would use them for that. You would be thing to center the Zener diode in the chassis of a Heath kit, and as you can see, it's got a little step on it, and they're a little thicker than what came out of the Dentron by just a little bit too. So I had to trim that off, and then I had to take my little thing and go kind of whittle these down so that the thicknesses were correct. So now we're going to try to assemble this thing and see what happens. I got there's the first one right here. It should go. You can zoom in a little bit so you can kind of see. Alright, let's see what we can get. That seems to work pretty good right there. I didn't have to push on it too hard to get it out. So I might have to make another one for that. I think I'm down one. But anyways, I think I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got to make one more. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, here we go. I kind of had to let me get in the camera shot here. I had to trim. Go around and trim this out. keep working with it like this and get most of it out of the way. I don't have to cut any notches in this because there's nothing there. It's pretty open. I had to cut little notches in these to clear some of the band switch stuff. So I don't know. I have to take and hold this with these pliers. And then it's loud. I had to keep doing that until I got it the thickness that I need. So I'm gonna do that off camera. Get this one on here. And I cleaned up all these little metal spacers that were really carboned up and got super hot. Get that one on there. Now the next one I'm going to have to put in place that'll clear the band switch component. Go. Alright, the next one I've got. Next one's kind of small, so it's going to be tight getting it in there. Alright. The next one should go. I have to knock a little bit more off of that. There. So now we've got it kind of back together there. I've got a little teeny washer that goes on it right here. And then a teeny weeny little nut that goes on right here. I have to get this turned around the right way. Now I can tighten the end of it up. Not too bad. You can kind of see what we got there because, like I say, these parts are obsolete. Can't find them. That nylon will insulate just fine for what we're doing here. Yeah, we can work with that. That's fine. I'm fine with that. I might turn this one a little bit off camera to get it lined up a little bit better. I don't like the way that one right there looks. I want to fix that.
I go back and get this thing heated up. I'm getting heated up on it. There we go.
Lord, that thought.
A little chatter on local talk there. Getting some of that together, get this set into this tank coil. Don't breathe in the dust. There we go. Got that in. Got to work these in now. Probably start right here. It's always fun listening to some of these locals out here. There we go. Wasn't going to mess with this thing this long tonight, but I said, well, I done got it out. So, and soldering iron was heated up, so I said, the heck with it. Yeah, that'll work. It's not too bad. I just didn't want a whole lot of solder there that'll run all down and onto that screw again. Well, however that happened, that's wild. I'll just keep working these back around until I get them all connected. And I've got to reattach these other blocking caps. I've got to put this other blocking cap back on down here in the bottom, which you can kind of see. But yep, all right, so we'll keep moving along with it. So we've got the band switch back in, and what I'm going to be doing is a test on a dummy load. I have a big dummy load that's up under that bench under there. It's hard to see, but I've got it put back where you can't see it. Anyways, so with the dummy load there, we're going to fire this thing up, and we're going to see if it'll make any power. I suspect the tubes are pretty down, so I don't think it's going to do anything where it's fully supposed to. Of course, this light's out. I tested it, but the bulb is bad. Nothing I can do about it. Can't find these bulbs anymore, so we'll flip it on and see what happens. All right, we got high voltage. Like I say, this light doesn't work, and I've got the safety jumped out, so you're not gonna, that's dangerous, but I had to double up my jumper so I have enough, big enough wire to run across there. So we'll let it warm up a minute. The tubes are lit up pretty nice, and you've got to be careful reaching around in here because it's very high voltage, very dangerous. So I've got good fan movement, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to be using a Cobra 2000 radio. We're going to have a little transistor that does like maybe 100 watts. So we're going to turn it back so we've got a real low dead key. And we're just going to use our dozy meter because it's easy for everybody. I've got a bird meter with all this stuff in it, but I'm just going to use my dozy because it's simple for everybody to see what it's going to do here. Foot pedal going to work. That's a good sign. Does it pull back a little bit? Yeah, not bad. Okay, that's good. We're on the high side of that. And I'll have this thing tuned out for what we're doing. But more than likely when you put the lid on, it changes everything. So let's this is one of my 2500s. Right here, I got two of them. There's another one sitting up there on the shelf. Yep. So, anyways, let's see what we got. Let's see here. So we've got our driver. I'm just gonna do a little tone. It's a little 100 watt. Say, this is all on dummy load. There's no, this is not an output. Audio, a little 100 watts. And so we're going to. Where's our dead key at? Let's see. Let's see. We don't have much dead key. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. I just want to see if it does anything. Let's see here. I don't have. Let me set this thing up where that was keyed up. Let's peek this thing out here. Let's see. To do that, you want to turn the tune to where you peek out the dead key, and the rest will be on the top. Let's see here. I'm about to set this up where you can hear me. Hello. Oh wow. Let's see here. That's getting down a little bit. That's 200 scale. Audio. Yeah. Audio. That's not bad. Hello. Audio. Well, that's not bad out of some beat up tubes. I need two hands so I can really get it set right, and I'll show you what the output does. Alright, I've got it. It's just easier with both hands, so here we go. There's our little driver. I'm not running much dead key. Audio. And that's with a 100 watt drive. It should do a little bit more than that. But the tubes are beat up. There's gonna have a little more dead key right here. That's about a 100 watt dead key. Let's see what it looks like. Sorry about the shaky video. I'm doing two kind of videographer with one hand. Yeah, that's a 10 watt key. About an 80 on the swing. That's not bad. You can run it like that. It's not gonna hurt anything. It's a little more on the top though. Audio about 150. Audio. That's not, for the frequency that we're tuned into right there, on the dummy load that we're using this on, that's really not bad. So I can say it's alive. We're gonna power it down, let it bleed down. We'll put the lid back on it. We'll send it back home. So we saved it. We had to rebuild that whole band switch, and that's doing better than I thought it would, actually. To be honest with you, I didn't think it'd do that much power with the way the tubes were looking and how hot this thing got. If you watched my prior video, we rebuilt that whole high voltage section, and yes, I know I used some cheap caps. I didn't charge the guy anything. He's disabled, and he's a friend of mine, and he's on a fixed income, and so I just used parts that I had here, and it works. And you know, I'm not going to charge him anything for fixing this right here. I'm going to give it back to him and tell him to enjoy it, to stick around. I want this to be something for him to keep him alive, and it makes me happy knowing that he's got something that he can communicate. Because he's blind, just missing a leg, he's real disabled, and this really helps him stay going. So thank you all for watching. If you like what we're doing out here, give me a like and leave me a comment and spread the content out and spread the love. You have a good one.